If you know anything about history, the Philippines in 1941, not a great place to be. Tinelli hoped to fulfill his one-year commitment to the army and then return back home to his new wife, Mary, and the Cardinals by the 1942 season. So in his mind, he was like, all right, I'm just going back. Yeah. 1 year, serve, come back to the NFL. Now, that all changed, Matt. December 8th, 1941, when Tinelli was roused from his bunk near Clark Field by an air raid siren. At 02:30 hours, a frantic trans-Pacific message had crackled over the airwaves. Air raid on Pearl Harbor. This is no drill. Now, a lot of you are sitting there saying, Shane, December 8th, 1941? You mean December 7th? He was in the Philippines. Yeah. Come on, man.
Of course. I was about to jump up your ass.
Yeah. Now, it's the Pearl Harbor shit gets me fired up, dude. I like it. I was watching documentaries on it. It's like just the way like Churchill reacted and shit. He was like,
he must have been like, yes,
dude. He was so stoked.
Really?
Also, I know you guys like a little conspiracy that 3 of the aircraft carriers were not in harbor at Pearl Harbor. Those were the ships you actually needed.
Where were they?
They just happened to be out that day when we got hit.
Really?
Yeah, boy. It's almost like someone. Now, they did know the Japanese were going to come at us.
Yeah.
Because the Japanese were ticked.
Yeah.
Because Japanese they were expanding like crazy. They'd gone into China. We talked about the rape of Nanking.
Yeah.
That was like 1937. They had taken, at this point, Japan controlled like Korea, all of Korea, Manchuria, into China. They took Indochina, I believe, isn't that what Vietnam is called?
That's probably
Sounds like Indonesia and all that stuff.
So they took.
How many people did Japan have?
I don't know.
How do you cover all that
from
space?
Japan? I
Land
don't
of the gods,
Enough
dude.
guards? What? Yeah.
Land of the gods.
Well, the way they did it was brutal. That's how they kept people in order. Yeah. And a lot of these countries were already under, like they had taken. Japanese took Korea in, I think, like 1905 in the Russo-Japanese War.
Yeah.
Which also started, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
Oddly enough, the Russo-Japanese War started with a surprise attack on Russia's navy.
Really?
A little foreshadowing. A little trick that they like.
So the Chinese, they like to kind of sneak attack the
Japanese.
The
Japanese.
Japanese
Snuck attack the Ruskies. With a little they like to start wars by eliminating the other side's navy, which is a sick move.
But isn't it just one base? Isn't there like multiple? Or they just take a nice big chunk?
Not in wartime. Like that was the Asiatic. That was our entire Pacific fleet, just about.
Yeah.
So they fucked us up bad in Pearl Harbor.
Damn.
Like that was the fact that those 3 aircraft carriers weren't there really helped.
Yeah.
The United States was going to win that war regardless, I believe, as a historian. But really, hastened the victory.
So why did the kamikaze? Why don't they just drop bombs? I mean, it's kind of a mind fuck.
I think they had production problems. Like I think they were like running out of
kamikazes. I believe.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I don't think they were kamikazes at Pearl Harbor.
Really?
I don't think so. I think that was like
kamikaze.
My bad. I just assumed. Excuse me.
That's all right. You've come a long way. I remember Pearl Harbor. You thought it was like biplanes and shit. This is good. And there could have been. I mean, the Japanese did a lot of like psychological warfare where they would just they had bonsai charges, which would be just everybody run at the other side. They would all die. They never worked.
Jesus.
Everybody would just kill themselves. And it was so bad that it bothered the guys shooting them.
Yeah.
Like they were like, this is bad. We're in a bad place. These people don't care at all. And that was like the mystique they tried to build up for their own army. It was like, we're fucking nuts, dude.
Damn.
Like we are nuts. We're all ready to die.
I wonder how many personnel they lost doing
bonsai charges.
Just doing stuff.
So I
like
was
that.
listening to Hardcore History, that fucking Supernova in the East. He has a bunch on it, and it's like he was talking about how you can look up aftermaths of bonsai charges pictures, and it's nuts, dude. It's just hundreds of dudes just laying there. That they all tried to charge.
Could they have almost won if they didn't do that? Like,
no, they had no shot, and they knew they.
It's
had
like
no
when
shot.
they tell you to stop buying Starbucks every morning. It's like that's where you're losing your money.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's because I don't have a job. No, it was the Japanese knew, a lot of their like higher ups knew they couldn't fuck with the United States because a lot of them studied in the United States. They saw what we had. Mm-hmm. They saw like the amount of people, the amount of land, all the farm. Mm-hmm. Like they were like, if this war machine gets moving, we have no shot. Yeah. So like a lot of the higher ups were like, don't try to fuck with the United States. And they went with it anyway.
What was Japan's whole thing? Like, why did they team up with the Nazis? Did they team up with the Nazis?
They did team up with the Nazis, which actually allowed them to get Vietnam from the French in 1940. So when the French left, Japan was like, that's ours. And because they were allied with the Germans, the French had to be like, okay, and sign it over to them. So they joined with, they were just good allies to have, especially with Russia. With Russia, that way Germany, they were ready for war with Russia, and they wanted to have Russia have two fronts as well. So Japan, that worked out for them.
I didn't really think about that a lot, how they were all on like the Nazis team.
Yeah. That was a bad team.
Yeah, dude, that was a tough.
It was them, Mussolini, the Italians, dude.
Yeah.
And then the Italians turned on the Germans.
I bet early, though.
classic collective backstab.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, it's not going very well. Let's switch.
Yeah.
Those other guys are winning pretty good.
Who would have thought this podcast would be more racist to Italians than Japanese? Just wait. We'll get there.
Oh, man. I didn't know they switched like that.
Yeah.
So they were like, you know what?
Towards the end of the war, the Italians...
This is messed up, guys.
They're like, I think we're doing it bad, dude. We got to switch. Maybe we were wrong.
That's such a sick move. Just to be like, wait a second here.
Yeah. Well, they flipped right when, like, the war in North Africa ended. Or, like, when the Allies started to win in North Africa and started to invade southern Italy, they were like, hold on. We're on your guys' team. Yeah, we got to get these sons of bitches.
They called a timeout. They're like, timeout.
Yeah.
Timeout.
They're like, wait, what's going on? Who the fuck are these German motherfuckers?
What? We thought we were on your side the whole time. That was awesome.
Churchill, when that... I couldn't find it, but I could have sworn he sent like a cigar to the king. I could be wrong. But he was fucking stoked when the U.S... As soon as the U.S. got bombed, Churchill was like, yes, dude, we won. In fact, that night, in his own words, written in a history of World War II, Churchill said that night he went to bed and slept the sleep of the saved. Pretty tight. Everything Churchill says rules.
Yeah, he does talk fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Slept the sleep of the slave. Saved.
Whoa. I'm part of me, man. I apologize. He brought up slaves.
He just came down from New England. I think they still...
That's a much different sleep, I would imagine.
Of the saved?
And the saved versus the slaved.
So, yeah, that's a rough sleep.
This one letter changes everything.
Yeah. So the Japanese at this point, I mean, right when Pearl Harbor happened, they expanded everywhere. But like I said, they were already in China. They were in China. They had Korea. They had Manchuria. They were expanding quite a bit. Also interesting, the Japanese were very interested in biological weapons, and they were mostly trying them out on China. Including, they dropped ceramic bombs filled with bubonic plague.
Oh.
They tested typhus and other diseases on approximately 1,000 different Chinese villages.
Damn.
So they were just in there just...
Ceramic bombs?
I think it was a ceramic thing filled with bubonic plague.
Do they make like a little imperfection? Isn't that like a Japanese way?
Yeah, I think they patch the imperfection back up and then they like put like gold stuff. So our boy is sleeping.
Mario's...
He wakes up.
Keep in mind also, the Japanese are not great. 1937 rape of Nanking, we talked about that. 350,000 approximately were massacred in that.
Oh, that's a lot.
Right after Pearl Harbor, they expanded by attacking British colonies in Burma and Malaya, as well as Dutch-controlled Sumatra. So they attacked Burma and Malaya right away to get the rubber that those places had, and then they got Sumatra from the Dutch for the oil. And in Malaya, it was kind of a precursor. That's where like the bridge, River Kwai.
Yeah, bridge over the River Kwai.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a precursor to what happens to old Mario, but they did the same thing. They took Malaya, just destroyed all the British prisoners. They really didn't take prisoners. The Japanese, like if you surrendered, you were nothing.
Damn.
You were lower than life. They hated it.
So they would just like kind of like throw you in a pit or something?
Yeah, a lot of, I mean, they did everything that you can imagine.
Damn.
That sucked. And this is the thing. Carlin was saying that the reason, so they would like torture the fuck out of whoever they got. If they captured you, they would torture you. They'd cut your dick off, put it in your mouth. Scariest shit possible. And he said one of the reasons they did that was to ensure that their own troops never surrendered because they knew they would get tortured for what they did. So it was like top-down order. You guys got to torture whoever the fuck you get. And just make sure no one's fucking surrendering. Like, make sure this is a war of just the worst shit possible.
Fuck. God.
Yeah, Japanese, not very good.
Yeah, that's pretty mean.
So right away, after Pearl Harbor, they also attacked other places on that day. They bombed just about every Allied airstrip in the Pacific. So they knocked out all of the airplanes and all of the Navy in the Pacific.
Damn.
In like a day, which limited General MacArthur's plan. He wanted to defend the Philippines by defending the beaches. So not letting them get on land, kind of like Saving Private Ryan, like set up shit on the beach. But they couldn't do that because without naval support or air, they couldn't be out in the open. They'd just get crushed. They couldn't do anything about planes and shit. So instead, they'd be forced to kind of slowly retreat within the Philippines once the Japanese got there and tried to, make it as hard as possible, which was the WPO3 plan. Just for those people out there. Yeah.
What does that stand
I forget.
for? I saw that on
heard it.
Wikipedia too. My quick research.
That's gotta suck, dude. To start off a war with a hard, like your whole naval front just fucked up.
Yeah, and you're on an island. So that's another thing. Like with island hopping, which is what the U.S. would do they figured out island hopping. That's kind of what it's called, where you just pick which island you want to attack. So the Japanese, towards the end of the war, they knew they were losing, and they would try to set up like massive defensive fortresses on these islands. And the U.S. was just like, no, we're not going to attack that. We'll just wait. You'll run out of food. We control the sea and the air. You can't get food on the island. So that's kind of all these islands result like they kind of end up being prison colonies on their own. Like you're just stuck on this island with 100,000 other guys and no food. Yeah. And the Japanese wouldn't surrender. So they would just starve to death and then kill themselves. Like, it was fucking wild,
oh my
dude.
God.
I mean, listen to Carlin's Supernova of the East. It talks about, like, just the way they fought was just, like they would use snipers that would just, they were all suicide missions. Like, they weren't like our snipers. They weren't like Chris Kyle's, dude.
Of course.
They weren't American heroes. These were dudes that would just hide and wait with a machine gun. And if people walk by, they would just fucking shoot as many as they could and then die. So MacArthur, I can't tell if he rules. A lot of people hate on the boy.
Really?
No, I think pretty sure he ruled.
I can't tell.
I think he's like
might
a
have
lot
ruled.
of guys. He like fucking ruled. Like Churchill ruled.
True.
And then I think like after the war is over, it's like, dude, you gotta chill.
Yeah, that was all the generals. Like Patton. Allegedly, they killed Patton. I don't know. Yeah. All these guys had weird, because they were all, this is back, it's still the 40s.
Yeah.
Like a general can technically take over the country.
That makes sense to me. I'd kill him too. I mean, you can't, if a guy wins World War II, like, is the guy that leads
Eisenhower, and then he becomes president.
Yeah.
True.
But he seemed pretty relaxed. Eisenhower
Of all those guys. MacArthur was pretty nuts. MacArthur would carry like a baton. He always had like a corncob pipe type thing. He had that hat. You remember that hat he wore? That's a Filipino hat. That was the hat they gave the leader of their military. So he wore it because he was in charge of the Filipino forces. We owned the Philippines. That was a U.S. colony. And we had just, I believe they were like independent for like 10 years. The U.S. gave them their independence in like 35, I think. I could be wrong. But
have they been independent since then, or
they're independent now?
Yeah, Philippines are fucked up. I was watching some.
Well, the Philippines are fucked up now, but dude, Philippines rules.
Filipinos
rule,
dude.
So December 7th was Pearl Harbor. By December 22nd, General Homa, General fucking Homo, dude. Japanese General Masaharu Homo. Also, I'm going to do this like the Irishman. Hung to death in 1945. You ever see The Irishman?
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever they introduce characters, they show you
they
like how
tell
they
them
die.
what
It's like pipe bomb to the face. General Hama hung to death in 1945.
Damn.
By the Japanese?
By the U.S. for his dirty deeds. So everything this dickhead's doing right now, he's going to get hung for in like 3 years.
Damn, I didn't realize we were still hanging people then.
We're hanging people. We hung Saddam.
No, we didn't do that.
Oh, we turned the blood. We were like, all right, boys. I think Hama got
your
hung.
Culture?
I think he got hung in the
You want
Philippines.
to topple a wall onto
That
him?
dude got hung in the Philippines?
Yeah. They brought him back to the Philippines, and they're like, all right, remember these guys?
Oh,
They're your
man.
jury. So they landed on December 22nd. The Allies actually held out until April 9th. So they held out for months. And this was a U.S. and Filipino force, mostly Filipino.
Yeah.
And also the Philippines Army was 5 years old. They just, you ever see footage of like us trying to train like Iraqi soldiers, dudes that can't do jumping jacks?
Yeah.
They literally did. So that was the army. This is a new army, and the U.S. the soldiers had never fought.
Jeez.
And they had faulty equipment. All their helmets were from all their shit was from like World War One.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there's no Navy and Air Force, so they're not getting resupplied.
It's like militarizing like Uber drivers.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And they're all in like play it again equipment.
Yeah, it's 100,000 Uber drivers on an island, and they're going up against the Japanese who have been at war forever.
Yeah.
These are all like hardened psychos against Uber drivers, and the Uber drivers hold out pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
They just tell them like boring, sad stories. Yeah, well, I hurt my back. You know, he can only work 20 hours a week.
How about that MacArthur, huh? It's like, all right, man. I don't want to talk MacArthur.
So Mario's on this island.
Mario's on the island, dude.
Damn,
Super
dude.
Mario's fucking. He's having a tough go, dude. This shit sucks. And again, the Japanese are so they retreat to the Bataan Peninsula, which controls like the Manila Bay. And holding that, trying to keep the Japanese Navy out of the bay is important. There's a small island off that peninsula called Corregidor, which is where MacArthur eventually is. He's like there, and it still sucks. Like you're in bunkers just getting bombed all day.
Yeah.
There's no stopping there's no one stopping airplanes from bombing you. So it's just whenever they want. But Hama is under pressure to take this island. Like he has to get it because everybody else in Malaya, in Sumatra, all that, easy. Everybody won. He's the general that's like having a tough time with these soldiers. So a lot of his guys were like, just wait like another month, and they have to quit. Like you don't even have to attack them. They have no food. But he felt pressure to keep attacking. At one point, he passed out. He fainted under pressure.
Really?
General was like, he fucking passed out under like all the stress of the battle.
Really?
Yeah. It was a negative experience. Also, this was interesting. Something I saw this in one video about Mario. Something like 1 or 2 in every 25 grenades they had worked. Nothing worked.
What?
All their ammo and shit was garbage.
The Japanese?
No, the U.S.
Oh, really?
Japanese were a war machine at this point. We just started.
So they would toss a nade and it had a 50% chance of going off?
Fucking 10%. What? And just throw it and be like, hope that, or it just hits somebody and like, But again, this is the worst place ever. This is like intense jungle fighting. Yeah. This is intense jungle fighting. This is Bataan has 2 volcanoes on it in a very small. It's not big. Like this peninsula is like pretty small. It just blows. There were cool things that happened, including the charge of the 26th Cavalry, which was the final U.S. cavalry charge.
That's horses.
Really?
Yeah.
Horses. There was a horse charge in this.
The U.S. charged?
The U.S., so a bunch of the Japanese were crossing this river into a village where I'm sure they were going to fucking cut everyone apart.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have anything. There was a scout. It was the Philippine scout, these horses, and they saw these guys trying to cross the river into this village, and they just charged into this village with fucking revolvers.
That's awesome.
On horses. Yeah, it was sick. Unfortunately, eventually the 26th Cavalry ate all their horses. So it does have a pretty sad ending.
How long after the charge did that happen?
I don't know. I don't
months-
know.
months later? They just went into the woods with their
I'm
horses?
sure they went through horses pretty quick. I'm sure they went.
I don't know.
They munched those horses.
How long does it take to eat a horse?
I mean, there's 100,000 people.
Oh, shit.
that's nothing.
So
that's like one.
People are just everything they could eat. There was stories of this guy who, like, when the bombs would go off and they were in their foxholes, animals would hide in the foxholes with them, and they would just grab them and munch them. And they were monkeys, and they were baby monkeys, and the guy said they looked exactly like humans, and even when he was starving, he couldn't eat them because they looked like babies. But yeah, like at night there'd be explosions, so the animals would hide with you, and dudes would just grab them and be like, just munching like,
God.
dude, you can't even. I'm telling you, this shit. I don't know. I was listening to this, just like, whoa, dude. How does anybody live this?
Yeah, well, how do you come back from that and then have someone be like, "Yeah, you like filled out this form wrong"?
Yeah.
What are you talking? I ate a baby monkey.
Yeah, I ate a monkey. I ate a monkey alive during bombs. I was that hungry. While bombs were going off, I was like, "This is gonna be pretty good."
Yeah, let me catch a quick snack.
So on April 9th, they had to surrender. They surrendered. And this was, I believe, General Wainwright's call. MacArthur was like, "Don't surrender." Mm-hmm. MacArthur kept telling him, like, "Don't worry." He hated the Navy.
Yeah.
There was a weird rivalry between the Army and Navy back then that was like, it was real.
That's when you got to cut that out, dude. Like, oh, I hate the Navy.
He was like, the Navy's being pussies right now. Although, in his defense, he was like, "Stop being pussies. We need help." But everybody told them, "Don't try to defend the Philippines." Like, everybody told MacArthur, like, "You can't defend the Philippines."
Yeah.
And that was even when we had a Navy and Air Force. They were like, "We're never going to be able to get supplies there. It's so close to Japan. We can't resupply you." Anyway.
So yeah, they're basically like, let that happen.
So yeah,
But MacArthur was like, "That's pussy stuff."
MacArthur was like, "That's defeatist."
Yeah.
Those were his exact words, which is why he wanted. That's what he felt about that WPO 3 plan or whatever that was.
Yeah.
That's defeatist. Although it could have maybe worked long enough. They might have held out until the Navy could get there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
As a historian, I'm not sure. It's up in the air for
Make
me.
a
Little
call.
blurb that
Make
I
the
read
call.
was like, he was like, "This is bullshit. It's defeatist. We got to be more aggressive." And the Japanese kind of fucked him up real quick. And he's like, "All right, back to WPO3."
Oh yeah, right away. So yeah, the Japanese just kind of marched them back. Although the Japanese did have to like stop and like, so they were taking some hits. It
them
wasn't
what for?
like we gave them what for. The Uber drivers gave them fucking what for, dude. So at this point, Mario is on the southern tip of the peninsula when the surrender is issued. He's at a place called Mariveles. It's the southern point of the peninsula. So that's the beginning of what is called the Bataan Death March. So all these people surrendered. It's like 60,000 soldiers, 70,000 soldiers, and then a ton of civilians. All these Filipinos on the island were trying to run with the troops. So that also, like, I mean, thousands of civilians.
Jesus.
So that's also, there's no food. And these people haven't eaten in months already. And now they're being handed over to the Japanese, who don't respect prisoners at all. Like, have disdain for them, and didn't give them food or water. And they were then forced to march 60 to 70 miles to Fort O'Donnell. Now, the march is, like, considered one of the bigger atrocities to ever happen to the U.S., and it was, like, it took 6 days. Anywhere from 5 to 18,000 Filipinos died on the march. Only around 500 to 650 U.S. soldiers died. They took it a little easier on them. They hated the Uber drivers, dude.
Yeah, that's a big beat. Filipinos get like the bottom of the barrel in the Asian world.
Japanese hated them, dude.
Chinese are not a big fan of Filipinos.
Well, yeah, whoever's number one in Asia at the time just fucking trashes everyone. They're like, Filipinos? Disgusting. Then the Filipinos come over here. We're like, what are you, Chinese? The hell are you anyway?
Hey, you're like Chinese but hotter. What the hell is that?
Fucking hot. This was wild. So all right, so this march, it was a real bummer.
What the hell are you anyway?
What the fuck are you?
I can't.
Why are they getting mad? I can't believe they're getting mad. I'm just guessing.
I'm in the ballpark.
I can't put my finger on what kind of bullshit you are.
Yeah. Hey, Matt. I don't know what the fuck you are, but I don't like it. All right. So the Bataan Death March. Matt, if you ever didn't want to do something, it was the Bataan Death March.
Oh my god!
All right.
My survival rate would be pretty decent.
You ever think about something you don't want to do?
Yes.
It's the Bataan Death March.
Dude.
But of the, like, what did I say, 70,000, 60,000 soldiers? 70,000 soldiers that surrendered. Also, this was the largest surrender in U.S. history.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Since Harper's Ferry in the Civil War. And I think like 12,000 soldiers. I forget.
That's
But
Union
70
soldiers surrendered?
Union soldiers surrendered. The old Stonewall, your boy.
Wow.
So 70,000 people were like, all right, they said uncle, basically.
70,000
That's
said
a lot.
uncle.
That's a lot of people to surrender, dude.
It is, and that was. It's weird to read these histories where they like kind of try to like let Japan off the hook a little somehow. Where they're like, oh, the reason they treated him so poorly and didn't feed him or give him drinks is because they weren't prepared for that many prisoners.
Yeah.
Which I think technically they weren't, which just led to massive overcrowding in everything they did. But also they wouldn't let them drink water.
Yeah.
Like they emptied everybody's canteens when they started the march. They took everybody's fucking hats and helmets off so that they got fucking sunburned.
Damn, it took
This is
everyone's flat brims.
They took all their fucking doughboy flat rims, and they called it. It was called sun treatment. They would literally just sit you in the sun. They were
fucked up.
cunts, dude.
Yeah.
And they,
Can Asian people get burned?
I would imagine,
Yeah, for sure. They can cop a burn.
But
How long do you
I don't
think it
know.
takes?
These guys seem to handle it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, Japan. Yeah, you get burnt.
Yeah.
There's like snow there. They can get crushed.
Cop the parasol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filipinos, they can take it. But the sun didn't get them.
obviously not.
The swords and bullets got them.
Okay.
And trucks.
Oh.
They would follow the line of people with like trucks and tanks. So if you like fell behind, they would just get run over. If you started to straggle, they would kill you. If you asked for water, they would kill you.
Damn.
I mean, here's one that this was interesting. So there's a thing called the Pontingan River Massacre. Pontingan River Massacre. Hundreds of POWs were executed and they were executed by sword and bayonet, and I mean there was beheadings. Japanese love cutting fucking people's heads off with swords.
yeah.
It's got to be kind of cool.
I just got to that part of Westworld.
When you
In
sharpen
what?
a knife and
Westworld,
like
like-
cut a tomato,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, it went right through.
Yeah.
It's also weird too. The war prisoner culture is weird. Where it's like, yeah, and they were jerks to the guy. Like you're supposed to if you're killing each other, then you're like, all right, time out, and they're like,
Well, you are.
Here's your room, sir.
There's rules.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
There's
though.
rules, and the Japanese were like, nah.
Yeah, they're like,
They didn't go with any of that.
Yeah.
well, it's just fun. It's just funny to be like, all right, when we're done killing each other, you got to give me room and
It's
board.
just to make sure your guys get the same treatment. That's what
yeah,
it is.
yeah, that makes sense. That
So
makes sense.
again, that goes back to why the Japanese did this,
yeah,
which is they never wanted their guys to surrender.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure their soldiers believed that if they got captured, they would get this. All right, listen.
Go ahead.
Listen. All right. So in that river massacre where hundreds of Filipino and U.S. soldiers got massacred, that was under the order of Masanobu Tsuji. Now, this is interesting because, like I said, Homo got fucking hung for what he had done. Tsuji was in that same – he was in the same boat. He was about to get hung. He escaped. All right? Tsuji managed to elude capture while facing war crimes by escaping to Thailand by himself.
Blended
Nice.
in.
Yeah, true. We're like, we can't find this motherfucker.
he's disappeared. Fuck.
He could be any of these. He took his hat off and just stood next to another guy. We're like,
I mean, dude, that was the absolute puzzle for a 1940s white dude. He going to Thailand. He's like, God fucking damn it.
he's like, there he is. Ah, shit.
You got to get him before he gets to Thailand.
Yeah.
Are you that son of a bitch? You were
gotta-
doing war crimes?
We got to get him before he gets into any group of 5 dudes. Because he's vanished. So, this guy vanished. He just walked slowly to Thailand. We couldn't get him. Interestingly, now this is a guy who did, this is crazy. And I looked at the documents. I looked at the damn documents.
You looked at the
all right?
docs?
I saw the docs. I saw the dossier on Tsuji.
Damn.
Tsuji, after this, in 2005, declassified documents revealed that Tsuji became a CIA asset during the Cold War.
Stop, dude.
Bro.
What?
Yeah.
How'd they
That's
find
awesome.
him?
I don't know. There was rumors that he was in North Vietnam helping the Viet Cong. There was, I don't know. Wild times,
That's
though.
fucking crazy.
But then, it was like, wait, he was a spy for us during the Cold War? I think he was also retarded. I think in the notes, they're like, this guy's totally useless. All right. I figured you'd be interested in a little Suji info.
Yeah, that's pretty nice, actually.
Following the surrender of Bataan on April 9th, 1942, I believe this is just, the Imperial Japanese Army prisoners were massed in Marivelis, where Mario was, and Bagak town. Forgive me. They were ordered to turn over their possessions. American Lieutenant Kermit Lay recounted how this was done. Actually, I'm going to do this like Carlin.
Please do.
I've been trying to sleep while listening to Carlin.
Yeah.
And it's impossible because he fucking screams quotes.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened? He's like, now you're talking the type of slaughter you couldn't even imagine. American Lieutenant Kermit K. recounted how this was done. They pulled us off into a rice paddy and began shaking us down.
He yells.
He screams the quotes.
He yells. He gets quiet. He changes the pace. He's like,
and this is what can you even imagine what this was like? Kermit K. had this to say. They pulled us off down into the... Yeah. It was making me laugh last night doing that. Anyway, here's the actual quote. They pulled us off down into a rice paddy and began shaking us down. They began shaking us down.
shaking us down.
There were about 100 of us, so it took time to get to all of us. Everyone had pulled their pockets wrong side out and laid all their things out in front. They were taking jewelry and doing a lot of slapping. They're slapping the boys around.
Fuck.
I laid out my New
Grab ass.
Testament. He laid out his Bible, so go ahead. I dare you to take it, boys. After the shakedown, the Japs took an officer and 2 enlisted men behind a rice shack and shot them.
Damn.
And shot them. The men who had been next to them said that the Japanese, they had Japanese souvenirs and money. So anybody that was found with anything Japanese, the Japanese used it as an excuse to execute them for stealing. And they did this the whole time.
Oh, fuck.
A soldier approached our boy Mario. He's marching. So Mario's standing, he's in the march. A soldier approaches Mario. He demanded Mario's Notre Dame ring. Remember that ring that he loved?
Yeah.
Super Mario was still wearing it
Yeah.
in the march for some reason.
It's hilarious.
I think he forgot. He was probably pretty hungry.
Yeah.
Wow.
The soldier put his bayonet to Mario's neck, and another a U.S. soldier turned to him and told him it wasn't worth dying for, because Mario said no. He loved his ring. This Japanese soldier put a bayonet to him and was like, give me the ring. He's like, no, you don't have to take out a ring. This is pretty crazy, though.
Did he get the ring off his hand?
He did.
Okay.
Japanese soldier steals the ring. Steals his Notre Dame class ring, and Mario is fucking... so fucking sad, dude.
Oh, man.
Then this happens. This is wild. A Japanese officer approaches him and says, in perfect English, says, did one of my men take something from you? Which is like, the hell is this guy doing speaking my language?
Yeah.
And Tonelli said, yeah, he took my ring. He took my class ring. And the guy says, the officer says, I studied in the United States. I went to Southern California. I remember that run. He remembers the game. He remembers Tonelli's run in 1937. And he was like, I'm familiar with Notre Dame football. And he handed him the ring back.
Whoa.
It's fucking wild.
That's pretty crazy. So he got to wear his ring.
Kept his ring. Now, the officer was like, you got to fucking hide that because everybody's going to try to steal that.
Yeah.
So,
He
I don't know where
respected the
he
way
hit
he
it.
pounded the ball.
he loved that north-south running approach.
Wow.
But yeah, he's a Japanese officer. He studied at USC. He's
Yeah.
like, I remember that 1937 run.
Yeah.
What a
Crazy.
game.
Think
Yeah.
about like running into like Reggie Bush.
True.
Like if we, all right, let's say we like invaded like
Yeah.
Jamaica, and you just saw Usain Bolt walking, and you're like,
Oh, shit.
I remember that guy.
Yeah,
Hey, man.
I would be like, kill him right away. If he
Like,
was,
he's gonna escape. That motherfucker.
he's on the other
see that
side.
Tonelli
yeah,
didn't-
he's huge.
Tonelli had his
He can
strength, dude. He could, dude. You know how fast he would have trucked through the Bataan Death
Oh,
March?
my
That's true.
God.
If you saw like
Just- Just lowering the shoulder. You ever see All-Star highlight videos?
Yeah.
He's like trucking through like 12 dudes. It would have been incredible. See those tiny Japanese try to tackle him?
Oh, no way.
Nobody could have stopped Mario.
yeah, if you saw like an emaciated Usain Bolt,
Yeah.
you'd put the gold medal back on.
Yeah.
You'd be like, come on, man. Just
You're the fastest.
Mario said this about that officer. He said, I always thought that someday he'd try to look me up. I guess he probably didn't make it. And
he didn't try to look that guy up. He didn't know that guy.
no, you fucking. Yeah. He didn't. I doubt he knew his name. It's like I looked up Matsuhaka Bakaraki or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they got streets over there.
Couldn't Google it. I'll tell you this.
He's got his ring.
He's got his ring. Anyway, Mario's got his ring back. Last night, this is what I called Chris because this shit was sick, dude. If you get a chance, listen to Jocko's podcast or read the book.
Yeah.
It's by Jim Bollich. Jim Bollich, Bollich. He has a book called The Bataan Death March, A Soldier's Story. And Jocko has a whole podcast on it where he basically just reads he reads passages.
I love
from
when
the
he
book.
does that. Yeah, he just like reads
Dude,
books.
I was listening to this thing like, it was crazy. The end of this book fucking ruled.
What was it about? So it was about a soldier's account of the Bataan.
Yeah,
Death
he
March?
was with Mario, and oddly enough, they were in the same camp initially as well, which was called Cabana Tuan.
Nice.
They were both in that camp.
Got a cabana.
Cabana Tuan. But this book, dude, like the fucking shit they went, like the march. Dysentery, turns out it's not as funny as we all think it is.
What happens?
You end up like shitting out blood and mucus for the majority of it.
Oh,
You know, I always thought it was just diarrhea to death.
it's blood and mucus.
I thought it was.
It is, you diarrhea out blood and mucus.
I think I've had a
Right,
little
yeah.
dysentery before.
But that's
I've had-
that's the beginning.
I've
little.
been wiping too hard and
Little
getting
bit
dysentery. The beginning, you just crap. Yeah, you crap.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you start when shit
and then
gets
the lining is gone.
Yeah,
and
then
you just,
you
You just crap out everything.
you crap out. And so all these guys had dysentery.
Oh.
All these guys had everybody was crapping out. Everybody, and obviously there's no showers, there's no water. Jim Bollich, I'm gonna fuck his name up. Jim, we'll call him Jim. He at one point he's marching. They would do this thing where they saw a well, like where you could get some water, and if you went to the well, you would get shot. But they were all so thirsty that they would all agree, a bunch of us are going to get shot, but we got to try to get this. So they, like a group of 12 dudes would run to get water. 5 of them would get shot to death. He was one of the guys. He went for it. Jim did, got a gulp of water and ran back in line and made it. But like 4 other guys got shot.
Damn.
I mean, it was crazy. The whole at one point he was marching and he saw a canteen on a fence while they were marching, and he was like, I thought it was a trap, but fuck it. I took it, and he got it. Jim got a canteen that got him through the march, and he had to hold it the whole day because he was like, I can't drink it in daylight because if somebody sees me, they'll kill me.
Yeah.
So he just marched with like a canteen hidden.
Oh, it would
and
kill
he
me.
was so thirsty.
He had
dude.
a bev.
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, what was interesting about that was he started to get dysentery, and right when they got to this camp, Cabana Tuan, there was a tree there that had leaves that cured dysentery. He got lucky that he started to get the symptoms of dysentery like during the march, so he knew he had it. So he started munching these leaves, but within like a few days, the tree was empty. There was no leaves because everybody had dysentery.
Damn.
Everybody died. I'm talking like they all died.
Damn.
Now they split them up, U.S. and Filipino camps. So the Filipinos during the march, like Filipino civilians were getting killed. Like they would try to give people food and they would get executed for that. Like,
Fuck.
dude, the Japanese were so mean, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Man, what's their problem?
Wanna
Did we
take over the
massacre
world.
anybody?
Did we?
White people?
We don't do that kind of thing.
No, we don't do that crap. What do you mean we? I stand by nothing the United States has done
No?
other than going to the moon.
True.
That's the only one.
the only
I
thing I
feel like I
celebrate.
had something to do with
Colonized,
that.
Big time.
colonized the moon.
All right, so Mario's at this camp. So is old Jim. Jim had like, if you listen to this podcast, it gives you a deeper account. I mean, I'm starting to run out of steam here because the rest of this is now, and also you got to keep in mind this is the beginning of the war.
Oh.
This is like the very beginning of the war. These guys got into prison camps, and the prison camps are exactly what you'd think they were. There's like fucking bamboo walls, dirt.
Yeah.
You just get killed. 4 guys tried to escape from Cabana or whatever the fuck it was called, and
Cabana Tuan.
Cabana Tuan, 4 guys tried to escape. They all got brought back, They got placed in crates at the front of the camp, like small, tiny crates, so that everybody could see what happens if you tried to escape. Then they marched everybody out, had the 4 guys dig their own graves, and then got executed into their own graves.
Oh.
After that, they split up into like a buddy system, a group of 10. So if one of you escaped, everybody died. And anytime somebody escaped, everybody else got executed.
Kill all your buddies.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They're mean, dude.
Oh, that sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Did people successfully escape from there?
Yeah, and what was cool, especially some of that cavalry unit, some of them escaped, and they formed a guerrilla resistance in the Philippines for like a long time.
Fuck.
Yeah, pretty tight.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah. Also, listen to the hardcore history on this. The Australians versus the Japanese, pretty tight.
It's a good battle.
They're
tight now. They're allies.
Are they, boys?
I think the allies.
I think there's so many Japanese. We're all allies with Japan now.
Yeah. Japan.
Okay,
yeah. Japan was like
Anything Australia
give us
is doing
baseball,
is
give
us.
us basketball.
okay.
Yeah.
So I was reading about.
If you think of Australia, that's basically Canada for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything we do, they're like, hell yeah.
Southern Canada.
Yeah.
Copycats.
They rule, though. Just
sure.
like Canada.
Yeah.
Canada and Australia both kind of rule. Whoa, you don't like Canada?
I'm not about. I think Canada's cool.
Yeah.
I'm saying they're kind of like copycats.
Yeah.
They just chill, do stuff, and then like, what's America up to? Man?
Yeah, except both of them fight like hard.
Australia and Canada.
Yeah, they're hard.
I mean, Australia would crush Canada.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I know there's some tough dudes from Canada for sure.
No, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada was a D-Day. Canada fucking balled out because they were all
Really?
English.
But I thought they were at like the weak parts. Were they Omaha, Utah, or were they like?
Look, I don't know
down the
exactly where.
line?
I know the Canadians did work.
Yeah, I think so. But there was sections.
Historically, Canada has done.
So you're saying
Good stuff.
Aussies are kind of yellow bellies. when it
No,
comes to-
Aussies are hardcore fucking.
So there's
dudes.
no yellow bellies.
Neither of them. I'm saying both of those countries are hardcore.
Nice.
Hardcore.
What's the?
It's history.
I feel like somebody has to be a yellow belly so I
Gallipoli
can
or
feel good
whatever?
about myself.
France. You could say France.
Oh, yeah.
France is weak.
No, they just ran into the
Buzzsaw.
Germans twice.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, they ran into Alabama twice. Germany's Alabama. Germany's Alabama.
Yeah, that's got to be fun. In the beginning, Italy had to feel like they picked the right horse. They were like,
Fucking
look
right,
at
dude. Look how
Germany.
sharp Hitler looked. He was up
Yeah.
there screaming and shit. It's like, yo, this is our fucking team. Compare him to fucking Churchill.
Yeah,
And also,
True.
Germany had just taken everything they wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
yeah.